All right, so when you do enter WeVideo through the Toronto District School Board, mark on the library page, you'll find that this is the view that you get. You'll notice that you can switch to classic, but it's going to be unavailable after January 11th, so I prefer that we get used to this version so that if you do decide to use this format for your summative, you have more experience using the one that's available. So to create this, I'm just going to say create. I'm going to create a video. Woohoo! Awesome. There's different templates, but I just like to make my video from scratch. So when you're choosing your audio clip that you recorded maybe on your phone or whatever, you just click upload and it'll say import. Now the reason I have anything in my upload section is because I've done past assignments on WeVideo and it saved the clips I've already uploaded from the past. Yours might be empty. All you do is press import and then it's going to say browse to select, and when you browse to select it'll let you drag and drop. Okay. So now that I've uploaded my audio clip, which is now here, you'll see it, I'm going to drag it down to audio. It's important that I keep it in audio so that I have opportunity to add images to my video. And this is kind of now my voice narration. I can also test it out by playing it just to hear the audio. So I can test it and you'll hear it in a second.
I'm a big fan of coffee.
So this lets you know what's being said as you're dragging your images in later. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple tricks about how to choose your media conventions for your video, as well as how to use this system to format your video. So first off, one of the things is you should plan your script. It actually will save you time in the long run if you have a few key ideas about what it is that you want, and what kind of images you think about when you're thinking of this, so that way you know what to look for. So in this case, I've highlighted a few key things that I'm like, it would be really nice if I could find an image like this. So what I'm going to start with is when I read my comments to myself about what kind of images I'm looking for, I'm going to start with the easiest ones first. And that's the ones that are free, that I don't have to source or cite, so it's faster, and that's why we're using this program. One of the nice things about this is you can add a track, which I'm going to do here. I'm going to add another video track. So I have video 2, and I'm going to move text up, video 2, video 1. The reason I like to have 2 video tracks is as I'm playing around with my images, I've learned from experience, it's easier to keep kind of a bunch of images here on the bottom. Actually, I'm going to move track up 1 so that I don't get confused. Track 1 is my actual real video. Track 2 is kind of, I'm keeping these images on the back burner and I don't want to look them up again. So, because I'm lazy. Not lazy, time efficient. So I'm going to look here and say just some generic images that are kind of cool that I probably will end up using. This one's nice, right? It's just coffee. You know, I'm looking through it and I'm looking for which images come to mind. This one has potential. I kind of like that. And you're just going to saying which are the generic, more everyday ones. So this one's nice, that will probably be used as fillers throughout your thing. Coffee time is good, right? Now, one of the things you'll notice about the free media pieces is that they're not very shocking or entertaining. They're very generic. They're kind of more filler pieces, right? In order for you to really get that media mark of it's persuasive, you're using images that are actually enhancing your media component. You're going to have to do a little bit of legwork and not just use the free images, okay? You can use some, but if it's all generic images throughout your whole piece, that's going to get really stale and boring. So now that I've got some stock images that are more generic, I'm going to go back to my ideas, and I have a couple very specific images that are going to take a little bit more work to get. like I do want an image of a Keurig machine, and that just isn't showing up on the We project. So I can go to Google Images, and I'm going to look up, and I'm saying Google Images instead of just regular Google, Keurig coffee machine. And you'll notice here that if you just take a photo from Google, technically speaking, it can be considered plagiarism, especially at university and college later, because it isn't your image. So if you want to start learning, how do I get around that if I'm just making a simple piece, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, what you're going to do is go to Tools, and there's something called Usage Rights. You go here and you get a Creative Commons license. And what this means are these are images that have been given permission. You'll see a lot of them are from places like Wikipedia or public domains that you are allowed to use, and you won't get in trouble if you don't source it as much. You can just say all images came from, WeVideo or Google Creative Image, okay? Common license. So here I have my Keurig machine. I can see which of the photos here would be a really good one to show Keurig. Ooh, I like this one. It's nice and clean. Ooh, coffee, yum. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to copy the image. Well, in this case, I probably have to download it. So save image, and I'm going to save that. I made a file for my video so I can see it. I'm going to call it Keurig Coffee Machine. That way, if I get lost of what was the image that I wanted, and that's there. I can do that for all sorts of things. I can go look at the creative license and see if there's something with a coffee IV. I can look at if there's a picture of money. I'm sure there's a picture of money that's on Creative Commons, etc. The more specific pictures, that might not be there. So for example, I wanted one picture of the actual gentleman, John Sylvan, who created the Keurig machine. That one might be a bit hard to see if he's there, but we can try. Oh, what do you know? He actually, oh, I forgot. Oh, I got excited. Oops. See, I jumped the gun there. I forgot to make sure it's free. Oh, see, his image is not free, which kind of makes sense. He's not just a generic free image. So that one, if I'm only having a few key images that are really super important, those are the ones that you might need to source and say these are images that came from a particular website. But you don't want to have a ton of those because that's going to take a lot of time. Maybe a couple images like that. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how easy it is to put your video together as you play around with it. Once you have your images in and your generic images on that video to line, like I told you, it really becomes easier to kind of pick and choose what you want. So listen to my beginning intro here.
I'm a big fan of coffee. I mean, big fan. I think my veins have more caffeine in them than blood sometimes.
Okay, so it's saying I'm a big fan of coffee, big fan. I think my veins have more caffeine in it than blood. So I'm going to use a generic image here because I don't have anything specific, and it has a heart, so I really love coffee. And then here's my image that has that funny, like, this is how much I rely on coffee. It's an IV machine. Boom. So because all those generic images were down here, as I'm listening to myself speak, I can drag and drop it and use the filler images until I get to a special image that I specifically chose. And I'm going to do this throughout my entire time. If I want something more detailed, really, really specific, for a split second, I can actually zoom in the time, and you'll see that as it's playing,
Veins have more caffeine in them than blood sometimes.
You could really get a specific spot if you want a sound effect or something to happen at one time. But for the most part, I usually keep it pretty small for the more like images. So now that I have done all of my photos, and you can also find videos. So videos, images are free, and I have that in my video. So the last part I want to look at is as I'm scrolling through and I'm looking at If I want, I can make it even smaller so I can see the whole thing. This is to make it larger again if I want to get more specific with the timing. But just to give us an overview here, I'm going to take a look. I can kind of see where are the images that are taking up a lot of time. And this one here had a big chunk of time. So if I go back to my script, this is the part where it's talking about how expensive it is. And that entire time, I just have the Canadian money as a backdrop. So I have a couple options. I thought about maybe putting in a text block here where I could have a 5 times symbol get larger and highlight the difference. So if you want to use a text box, this is what the text part is for. You can add text here, and there's different types of text boxes you can use. I'm going to just use this one for fun, a simple thing. And then you'll just go in and you're like, okay, this is where I want it. I want it around here. And you can add your information. So it's 5 times, oops. So you can edit that box. And when you click edit, it lets you go in and say, okay, I'm just going to be K-cups are 5 times more expensive than regular ground coffee per pound. Okay, and then I can just put that in and I can adjust this, put this in, and that's one option I could use. And I can say, okay, I like that, great. I'm going to say save, and then that's put in there. There used to be an option where it had a bigger number. Oh, this is another cool way of doing it too, is I've done this in other videos where it just pops up in different statistics. So you can kind of play around with it. I'll probably end up changing this text box because I find this a little bit plain and generic, but it still works. But there's other ways that you can do it, or you can have, you know, your number get bigger if you're trying to show that 5 is large. You can make that text size larger to emphasize that it's 5 times bigger, more expensive. So you can play around with that. But either way, anytime you use it, if you don't like it, you can always click, and this is true of any image or picture, delete, gets rid of it, and then you can just try a different type. So sometimes you want to get really, really specific with your video depending on how much fun you're having it with it, or how technical you want to get. And you want to pinpoint a certain spot where a sound effect happens, or maybe a text block comes up really quickly. And in that case, you're going to need to know how to zoom in, because zooming in helps you really slow down the marker so you can get that perfect spot where you want to insert that sound effect or that video. And again, this would only be for a couple things, maybe 1 or 2 sound effects, or a little blurb that pops up, because it is a little time consuming to be that specific with your details. So in this case, I want to add no filters, no fuss, no mess to the part where I have this beautiful picture of this mess over here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it, and when I hear no filters, I'm actually going to press comment, and it will pause the marker, and I can write no filters as a reminder that at this exact spot is where I want to put that text box. So watch what it might look like.
As to how easy it was to make a cup of coffee. No filters.
So right here is no filter. Notice that when I tried to do it just by eyeballing it, I was off by quite a bit. But if I'm right here where it says no filters, in fact, I'll kind of move it here and just listen one more time.
Filters, no.
Oops, one more time.
Filters, no.
Oh.
No filter.
So usually when you hear it, you just might need to go back a few seconds. So right there, I'm going to say comment. I'm going to say this is where it says no filters, and I'm going to add that. And now it's going to stay. It's going to stay there as a placeholder, as a reminder of why I put that dot there. So now when I bring this text box over, I can align it exactly in the moment where I say no filter. So it should be closer than before.
No filters, no mess, no.
And that's how the professional YouTubers are able to get their exact point when they're speaking.
No filters.
right there, no filters.
No mess.
And when I have no mess, I can put right here, no mess. No mess.
No fuss.
No fuss. And I can add those text boxes in by just going right here, sticking it in, saying edit, and then saying no fuss. Trying to be consistent with my font. I wanted my font to be yellow because I didn't like the white background. I couldn't see it. And then I say done. And it's there. I'm going to have to make it smaller for a second so I can actually see the end of this. And there we go. No filters, no fuss, and no mess. I can add that. So you get the idea. So it might look something like this.
To make a cup of coffee. No filters, no mess, no fuss. And I admit.
Oops, no fuss was over here, my mistake. But you get the idea, and I could add a new one for no mess.
No fuss. And I admit.
And you can be as detailed as you want. I mean, I won't take off marks if you're a second or off with your words and what you're saying. But those of you who really enjoy media and want to get better at it, you know, you can play around with it because this is a professional program that a lot of YouTubers can use, etc. So there we go. So it'll look like that. Same thing goes for sound effects. So if you're looking for a sound effect really quickly, so let's say I wanted to have a sound effect for how costly the money is. When I talk about it's very costly, I want to have a cha-ching sound. So I can go over here and be like cha-ching. Oh, cha-ching. Let's just say cash register. And here is a machine cash register. So I can listen to it. There's that sound effect, really short and simple. It's not going to drown out my voice when I'm talking. I don't want to have a lot of background music or sound effects where I'm competing with it, but I can stick it in here where I want it and play around with where it sounds when I'm talking. So
I was forced to revert back to brewing my own Java. And man, did that open my eyes.
Oh.
For starters.
Okay, the reason that didn't work is a good learning experience is I need to put the audio on audio, but you notice I already have audio. So what do I have to do? I need to actually create a new track, a new audio track. And that's going to be my sound effect one because I don't want to be deleting my speaking. I'm going to put that ching sound somewhere over here. And let's see where it lands.
Back to brewing my own Java. And man, did that open my eyes. For starters, K-cups are costly.
K-cups are costly. So I want it right there. I can, again, last reminder, put a comment. This is ka-ching sound. And now I can bring that right to the perfect spot. And if I want it more specific, I can make it even more zoomed in. Because the more you zoom in, you'll notice that you can be off by a little bit. It depends on how much you want to.
Mathematicians at the New York Times.
And then that's that. So between all of the sound effects, it does have music if you want any music. But again, please use that either at the beginning or the end of your video. Don't use it as when you're speaking if it's competing with your voice. You can use different sound effects. There's videos that you can use, again, over here. And at the end of the day, when you put it all together, the final product will look like this, roughly. You'll have lots of images on your video, a few text boxes here and there. Your video too will probably be entirely deleted because these were your just generic pictures that maybe you saved in the beginning and you decide I don't need those ones anymore. Your regular recording of your voice, and then finally any sound effects that you put on the bottom. And when you put it all together, your video will work. And hopefully this has been a helpful tutorial and you can jump around based on the chapters which reminders you need when you're making it. So good luck with your assignment. And the last part is how do you upload it and save it.